Welcome to Inside Digital Assets, the podcast about the future of capital markets, tokenization, digital assets, and the technologies that power them. We talk to people driving this transformation about real-world projects, digital innovation, and one big question: what will the capital markets of tomorrow look like? Hi, Markus. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hello, Lidia. My pleasure.
So I have here today, in today's podcast, Markus Fehn. Markus is head of strategy and innovation at Chartered Investment. We recently announced a partnership on our Swiss entity, BX Digital. So very happy to deep dive there today. But very much I'm also interested in hearing from you what you are doing in general, that we can talk a bit about like how you came from a really traditional background at Chartered Investment to now doing tokenized topics. So I'm very much looking forward to today's chat with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure. And also thank you so much for the great collaboration, our partnership. I'm happy to elaborate a bit more of our gold token maybe a bit later. So let me first maybe quickly explain about what is Chartered Investment doing. With Chartered Investment, we enable investment products through our platform. So we have a platform through which professional clients, family offices, asset managers of other financial institutions can create investment products. And these investment products can be created via the traditional world, but also in a tokenized manner. So basically, we allow the client to choose whatever they prefer or what makes most sense for them. And then we have structured our overall offering into 3 boxes. Box 1 is basically actively managed products. Box 2 is real world asset products, so maybe the stuff which is not so liquid. And box 3 is the classical structured notes where you combine a bond and an option.
Can you make a concrete example of a potential client that you have and like at which point is he coming to Chartered Investment for doing what?
Yeah, so usually our clients, they have an idea on what could be sold to investors or what could be made bankable or could be made investable for clients. So then they come to us and bring up this idea. And then what we have is 2 main things. We have a strong structuring capability. So we have guys on the ground who really can evaluate, can judge, know what's possible to do in terms of regulatory terms, especially with regards to who should buy the investment product. I mean, it's a real difference if it should be made available for a professional client or if it should go retail. And some things work with retail, some don't. So basically, they come to us and then we discuss the idea on the structuring side. And the second thing is we have a platform approach, so we have built technology. So our technology can not only handle the issuance, but can also handle the lifecycle management. So what do you need for lifecycle management? You need a bit of trading capabilities, a bit of middle office, a bit of accounting, and all the stuff which all the people know from the rest, let's say, more banking setups.
And is it always a external client that comes to you and say, I want to do something, or do you have own products as well that you create?
So at the moment, we don't create our own products which we distribute. It's really the approach that somebody comes to us and has this idea, and then we develop the setup together.
Okay, understood. And now you're in a very traditional setting, in a sense, products that existed already for quite some time. You have been creating that. I think your company already exists also for quite some time. I think it's a bit over 10 years?
Exactly, a bit more than 10 years. Yeah.
So you're really coming not from a tokenized blockchain world, but really from a traditional side of things. How did you add tokenization to your portfolio, and how does that play a role in your world?
Yeah, indeed, and that fits a bit into, let's say, also my story at Chartered Investment. So when I started, and I think my title was called Head of Business Development and Product Innovation, that was actually in 2017. And in 2018, I led a project which was actually about a blockchain node. So together with some partners in the UK, we did under the FCA sandbox as an issuance of a structured node on a public blockchain. And that was the first of that kind in 2018. I mean, it's 8 years ago. Yeah. So we did this together. What was the result? The result was the concept is great, but if you don't have cash on chain, many things don't work. Yeah. So we found that out, let's say, the hard way at that time. And nevertheless, we strongly believe that this technology has huge advantages, and we can go into the details. And that's why we continue to look into it. And that's why we also applied for the crypto registrar license in Germany 2021, which we now have, because we strongly believe that the technology is superior and that people will move on chain. And we see this already now in the markets. We, for instance, did an analysis and checked how many users do the top 20 crypto exchanges have today. And if you round that up, you're almost at a number of 1 billion. So 1 billion, around 1 billion users are on the top 20 crypto exchanges in the world. So that means, there's strong growth on that side. And obviously, when you add up the technology, it's something I think nobody should ignore. And the question is only how do you deal with that and what do you make out of it?
Now, deep diving a bit into that, is now creating products that you have been creating in the traditional way, now creating those products in a tokenized form. Does that make sense mainly to get to those 1 billion customers that you're mentioning, which are on the crypto exchanges? Or do you see any other reasons why the clients are coming to you and saying, okay, I want to have the product, but I want to have it in tokenized form?
Yeah, so I think there's two boxes why we look into it. One is indeed the operational topic. And there it's very clear. We have issued, or we have via the SPVs which we manage, and we also have a fund license nowadays. There's products, more than a couple of thousand products issued. So we see in our daily business what works and where things are efficient and where not. And we clearly know where things can be more efficient because of tokenization. So that is really the efficiency point. And we would actually we love our clients with whom we do business. We would like to put this on the next level to make them more happy, to have a better service, to have a higher quality in terms of the technology, which just allows to bring things to the next level. So that's one box. We look at in terms of the lifecycle management. And the second thing is obviously accessibility. So when we used tokenization, and we see this already in talks at the moment, there's now the question, okay, when it's tokenized, can I access more markets? Can I widen my investment space and make it available also in other jurisdictions or across the world? And obviously, that's also something where we would like to help our clients to make use of technology like tokenization and then enlarge the space on where this product might become available. And the DLT exchanges, coming back to that point, or crypto exchanges are one way to do so. Others might be in the future to come up in certain jurisdictions. And
in terms of like the projects you did, the products you created on tokenized rails, can you elaborate a bit on that? Like which kind of products did you do? What worked and what didn't work maybe as well?
Yeah. I think indeed one of the products which we like internally most is the gold node, which we plan to list with BX quite soon. It's a physically backed gold product, and also here the story I think is interesting because it fits well to what we do. This product exists in the traditional world already and has kind of interesting volume in it. Okay, so we set up all the story behind in terms of the gold is physically stored here somewhere in Switzerland. It's actually a certain category of gold, so it's called green gold. So there's some ESG characteristics around it. The buy of the hedge when the investor buys the node and all of this operational stuff we set up in the traditional world, and we also issued it in a tokenized manner. So actually we let the clients then choose what they prefer, and there might obviously be clients which are on chain, which only have the possibility, for instance, to buy the tokenized version. Yeah.
So really on the ETP gold product, it's also on the second case you were mentioning, having a bit of a broader distribution range as well, and tapping into other markets, which probably today might not yet have gold products.
Absolutely. And I think the gold sample fits in there nicely because at the moment, when you look at the market for gold, you have larger players which have gold trackers. They are also physically backed. There's some famous name out there in the market in Germany. But these exist in the typical MiFID II world, so to say. So nothing is tokenized there. And then you have other players who do an art under MiCA, which also have a gold tracker, but you don't have a tokenized MiFID II instrument, and that clearly sits in between. And that's why we think this is an interesting product to look at, to fill this gap and have a tokenized version which is fully backed, but as a MiFID II instrument.
Yeah, maybe just for the listeners as well, when you talk about the ART token under MiCA, is referencing the asset reference tokens under MiCA, which is more comparable to the stablecoin regulation than to let's say a tokenized asset, or generally a securities regulation like MiFID II. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
In terms of other products you're looking at, so the gold token, obviously one we are very much looking in detail at with you together to bring that to Switzerland. I know you have done other projects as well.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about that? Which projects that you did outside of gold?
Yeah, so I think there's two more things maybe to mention. One is we see demand coming from the real estate side. So we're in various talks, and we have done issuances there. To be honest, mainly in a debt format. Yeah, so with tokenized debt with regards to real estate, and that is something which we see actually, which is done already today, and we see more talks with these clients. It's actually more of a question: can we do more? Can we make processes even easier? How seamless can we do these processes to make it as easy as possible for our end investor to invest into such products? And as I said, there's even though, let's say, the interest rates are still high, and maybe real estate is not where it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it's a clear demand coming from real estate side. And the third case is indeed what we see is we see the idea to tokenize investment funds. I mean, we know at the market there's currently lots of money market tokenized funds out there, but we see clear demand that asset managers say, okay, money market is fine, but how about another investment strategy on chain? Can you bring my fund on chain? Mm-hmm. And indeed, that goes hand in hand with a story to enlarge the investor base and make it accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah, okay, understood. Now, deep diving a bit into the technology you are using, which blockchain technology did you select?
Yeah, we are currently based on Ethereum and Avalanche. And in general, our credo on that is we, of course, open to whatever brings the future. The thing is, what we see in the market, some go like almost everywhere, right? Larger players say, I want to make my token, or it needs to be available on 10 chains at the same time. We are a bit more, I would say, conservatives there, because I don't want to be present at the chain just for the sake of being present. I would be more happy to find common ground with other players and maybe find 1, 2, 3 chains or whatsoever, and have this as a level playing field, and then concentrate more on creating nice products than thinking about what could be the chain number 250 to be also present there. Yeah.
And I think we think very much alike there. We try also on our side also to limit it on as few chains as possible, also to not fragment liquidity. So if you have the asset distributed then across many chains, that would definitely be an issue in the mid or long term. Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, we are thinking, and we are coming from the traditional world. In the end, there's investors, professional or retail, who is buying a product, and for them there needs to be a benefit, and they need to be able to participate in an investment strategy. That's still where we are coming from. And then the question is, in which way would it help to be more present on various chains? If there's a reason to, and this would be helpful, then let's discuss about it. If not, then let's discuss about something else, I would say.
Now, with your view on both the traditional as well as the digital world, do you see, I assume the traditional world still makes up most of your activities. Do you see somehow of a proportional increase of the tokenized world? Does it merge at some point? How do you see the development there?
Yeah, so yes, the large part is on the traditional world, but from our perspective, there's momentum. So let's say the large volume is on the traditional side. I mean, that's everywhere. That's not only us. That's everywhere. That's how the market is. The question is, where's the growth, right? I mean, everybody wants to grow. So where's the growth? And not only tomorrow, but in the next months, in the next years. So where's the market and going, and in which direction, and how to capture growth? And that is not a question for us, but especially for our clients. So how can we create growth for our asset managers, family offices, and financial institutions? And therefore, we see it as our obligation to demonstrate and outline where growth could be. And that is clearly in the on-chain world. On-chain, there's growth. I mean, these 1 billion users, it's just basically the beginning. So there's more growth. And basically, you want to guide them and lead them to a way where growth can be created, obviously with our help ideally, and where we can have or continue this growth story together.
Now, tokenization has already been a buzzword since some time. Do you see a change in traction over the recent months, years? Or do you still feel it takes quite some time until it's fully developed?
I think especially last year was a very interesting year with the announcement coming out from Nasdaq. I think this year New York Stock Exchange, Seturion was founded. I think it's also worth mentioning here. So I think with mentioning our issuance 2018, right? Our blockchain issuance now 8 years or 7 years have 8 years have passed. Yeah. So how do I look back? There was not so many years where so many things happened as last year, to be honest. Yeah. So what I clearly see is this is gaining traction. Also, obviously, I mentioned that our main issue was cash on chain, right? There's now solutions for cash on chain. The question is then, what will be the solution? Either of the solution, be it a private stablecoin or a central bank digital currency, will help us to really demonstrate the advantages of the technology. So I clearly see there's a shift, while at the same time, financial markets are not flipping overnight, obviously, which is completely fine. Yeah.
Do you have an estimation, like how long it could take until we have, I don't know, majority of markets being tokenized?
Yeah, that's the master question, obviously. Yeah. So everything tokenized, probably it will take. It will not be done in the next 2 or 3 years. But maybe what's interesting to mention here is, I think you have these two boxes between, let's say, the traditional financial instruments which exist already today, like stocks, bonds, and so on. So are these getting tokenized, or we see, I think, also cases for real world assets which even are not existent in any format yet, right? And I think in the early days there was a tendency saying these real world assets, they get quickly on chain, and let's do it. And obviously because we come from the traditional world, we're still like, but you still have regulatory questions, you still need to be compliant, you still have these 200 pages of subscription documents. So how do you deal with that? And I think the answer is that obviously a disclosure will remain, but friction doesn't have to, because tokenization solves this operational burden. And I think that's important to understand. And nowadays, I think what we see is that tokenized stocks gain traction, right? I mean, we have famous players out there who are quite successful with tokenized stocks. So I think at the moment, the momentum is more on that frontier. And obviously, it fits to what we do, because we are active in the terms of nodes, of debt instruments, and also of fund instruments, and we see more and more coming up there on the tokenization frontier.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the stablecoin topic, which has been an issue in the beginning. Now we have stablecoins out there which can be readily used. Can you explain a bit how that exactly changes the processes that you have internally, also maybe with respect to the life cycle of the products?
Yeah. So first of all, for us, obviously, what's very important is that whatever stablecoin it is, that this is an acceptable way of payment, so to say, that it's an authorized way, so that there's no discussion around that. That's what I like about the MiCA legislation, that they have this electronic money token legislation in there. So that means for everybody who is not in the details of MiCA, you can have a stablecoin, and an electronic money token is basically a regulated stablecoin, because you need to fulfill certain obligations, I would say, right? And that's why we are looking into this EMT topic. And if we have a stablecoin or a regulated stablecoin, obviously there's what's connected to an instrument. It's payments, be that on the buy and sell. Then settlements are connected, and then throughout the life cycle, lots of things happen, right? I mean, it can be a coupon payment, it can be a dividend payment if it's an equity instrument. There's buy and sells, let's say on a secondary market, and whenever there's a payment flow involved, obviously things are automated to a certain degree. But cash on chain brings it to the next level, because, and I think that's still one of the key points which is, in some discussions nowadays get lost. because it can be made programmable. Okay, so the story is really about coding and making and enforcing logic.
Also on the money level, right? And yeah. Now looking a bit at your journey, I mean, you said when you entered Chartered Investment, the whole topic started. You helped build that up as well. How did you get into the topic?
So I spent my first half of my career in consulting, and then I dropped out, and then I found Chartered Investment. We basically got approached, as you said. We have clients or potential clients coming to us saying like, "How about this idea?" And then indeed somebody brought up the idea: should we do a structured node on chain? Yeah, and that was indeed for me the part to look into it. And I still remember that time, 2018, I was running around and asking that somebody assigns me an ISIN for the node which we do on chain, and people were of course very hesitant and reluctant, saying like, "Yeah, but what is this? Yeah, is that real, or how does it work?" Yeah, and it's kind of the thing which I'm quite happy that is also, I think, a sign that the market actually develops. But this project was basically my starting point when I dropped into it.
To get into it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we got a long way since then.
Yes.
I feel, but still, I feel there is still some steps to take. Still a long way ahead of us as well on certain topics. Do you see current roadblockers on your side? Hey, that still needs to be solved, and we need to solve it.
Yeah,
so.
I think there's two things, two main things to take away, and I would say one is a bit more maybe for the politics, and one is, I think, more for the market. And I think this legal fragmentation topic. So in Germany we have this Electronic Securities Act, which I think is a great idea because with that you actually create real legal ownership, right? You see at the market some structures where you don't have legal ownership, and the Electronic Securities Act actually allows you to create real legal ownership, and then basically you can scale tokenized products in a reasonable manner. So that makes a lot of sense. However, it's a German law. Yeah, so it can be translated to certain parts, but it's not a European law. Yeah, so we have this legal fragmentation. I think we have in Switzerland the DLT Act, right? Which is also great. But if everybody does something great on their own, I think that's an issue. And I think, yes, we can try to push it from the market, but I think we clearly need the help of the legislative actors here to solve that.
So that would be especially like a harmonization on the issuance level. So how tokenized products can be issued and how the regulation around the issuance is actually structured. Because, I totally agree, that's currently a national law in Europe. And that's definitely something that would help if that's harmonized.
Yeah, and you need to have this parity, right, to other stuff, right? I mean, I think it's an issue on long term if tokenized instruments have issues to get listed everywhere quickly because of certain rules and regulations, so to say. Yeah, so of course this parity just needs to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and second thing is obviously on the technology in terms of standards. We need to develop standards to have also a harmonization on the technology level, because if one does it like this and another one like that, I think it will not work out. So let's agree on standard, but I think it's less for the politicians. It's indeed for the market players to solve that and find common ground, be that in terms of a few chains or in terms of how things are written into the blockchain, right? I mean, this is to make it very pragmatic. It's like, how do you define a field? If we write a node, an instrument into the chain, okay, how do we call the field for ISIN? Is it called ISIN or identifier or something else? I mean, it's very easy things, but those ideally are aligned, and I think it's on the market participants to really act and solve it, because this one will not get solved by somebody else.
Yeah. And also when you talk about standards, it's not only technical standards. I think in terms of like blockchain standards, for example, ERC20 and a couple of more, it has been established a bit in the public blockchain domain.
True.
It's also a lot around it, as you're saying, the details and how you name things. What we feel as well also, it's not just technical standards, but also legal standards in a sense of, for example, we have the issue, or we see the issue not only in Switzerland, but across Europe, that you have to somehow show that the asset has been created correctly in a legal form. So everyone, again, is writing legal opinions for each asset. And we have a nice standard setting body in Switzerland, but it's actually looking to expand international called CMTA, which combines that. So a technical standard setting as well as a legal standard setting, that once you get the CMTA certification, every infrastructure provider such as us can actually be sure that that asset has been created not only in a technical correct way, but also in a legally correct way. I think that goes into that direction, and totally agree that that is an important step.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I think it's also a great initiative that CMTA is driving the Switzerland development, so to say, in that regard, and find ways to make it happen, so to say. At the same time, obviously, I think we all need to think about next step, right? I mean, how to do this in a scalable manner, right? I mean, what's there the answer? Because again, let's say our clients would rightly say, yeah, but at the moment you can issue a product in 3 days and quickly scale it. Yeah, why is it now then more complicated on Tokenized? I want progress. Yeah, I want. What do our clients want? They rightly say, I want to have a credible way to the future. Yeah, so show me the credible way, but of course, try to avoid making things weaker than before. Yeah.
But so judging and seeing you, like knowing all the difficulties, the challenges when creating tokenized products, but still being very, very much enthusiastic about the topic and seeing that as the next step in our technological evolution with respect to securities. Can you elaborate a bit on that in the sense of what makes you drive and what makes you believe that is simply the future?
Yeah, I mean, if you we also see, as I said, in the daily business, where there's room for improvement, nicely saying, okay? If you look, for instance, at fund onboardings, just to, I'm not judging at anybody here, but there's a typical process which maybe is not that straightforward, which you might assume when you look from the outside. How much efforts are behind such a kind of process? So we see, and it's just, as I said, I'm not judging about anything, it's way more things on the operational front here. I don't know anybody who likes the word reconciliation, right? There's nobody in the world who likes reconciliation. Okay, so what we have today in the world, we have reconciliation teams who work with Excel spreadsheets and they do reconciliation. I mean, I just have I'm just convinced that we can spend our time maybe in another manner. Yeah, and I'm also clearly saying, the work which is done there is not disappearing. Yeah, it's just shifting to a different technology level, and it can be done more efficient. And that's what we see also in the daily business, that makes just a lot of sense. And then if you think that further in terms of we are a platform through which you can create investment products, yes, then of course we are more than happy to talk with our clients and say, like, how can we create this growth with making the product more accessible? Because the technology, and that's the great thing, the technology indeed allows to make it accessible everywhere. Yeah, because it's on chain. And now of course we need to help them to also solve the layer from a regulatory perspective, because but that is actually unchanged. That was there before, yeah, and that is still there. However, the technology allows now for a completely different level. And of course, that is what I think is really exciting to look at, because we all want to see how that growth can be enabled.
Yeah, and looking into that future now for Chartered Investment, what are your key priorities going forward now to bring that future to life?
I think in general, key priorities are you need to invest in tokenization or in new technology. Actually, let me bridge that also a bit to, we are also looking into investing into AI. Yeah, and there's a famous saying about there will be broken glasses, meaning you invest money and not everything will work out perfectly from the start. And that's part of when you do an investment, so to say. And that goes, I think, for tokenization and also AI. But I think there's no way not to do it, because the opportunities are just so huge. So we have a clear approach of saying we will invest into it. And the great thing about tokenization and also AI, we see already now that there is business, right? I mean, we are doing real estate tokenized issuances already now, and we are in this talks. So therefore, the roadmap is to further invest into our platform, to make the process and the issuance process and the lifecycle management as easy and as seamless for our clients.
And if you look more as a person that is very interested in the space, and if you look into the future, maybe as a last question, if you could imagine a future, how a future capital markets could look like instead of today's Excel spreadsheet reconciliation topics. How would you envision such a future?
Yeah, I think that investors will have access to a wide universe of investment products, and clearly that blockchain technology will be almost invisible, because the moment when it gets invisible and nobody talks about it, it will be set and it will be clear that this is now the standard, and it's just there, so to say. We don't need to, at the moment, we don't need to talk about the advantages and why it makes sense. It gets clear that it's implemented almost everywhere. So therefore, actually, it's proven that everybody understands why it's so useful in the future.
So let's hope that we soon need that podcast no more, right? that blockchain is in everyday's life. But it was a real pleasure to have you here today. Also looking forward to onboard you with BX Digital and going to go live with the products we have in the pipeline. So thank you for being here and being our partner.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great fun. And yes, I'm looking forward for the project.
Thank you very much. This was Inside Digital Assets, a joint project by BX Digital and Seturion. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our podcast and feel free to share with others.